Okay.
Happy holidays, everyone. I know it's been a long, rough year, appropriately so since the world feels more screwed than ever, but as 2025 winds to a close and we rapidly approach the singularity of social awkwardness mixed with familial tension that is the Christmas season, how about we all brace ourselves by cuddling up near the fire, pouring a hot cup of cocoa, and taking part in the time-honored gaming tradition that is Jeff Keighly's The Game Awards, as we ask ourselves only the most important questions about this year's show. What was up with that statue in the desert? Did Expedition 33 deserve to win? Oh, let me check my notes here. 9 friggin' awards? And of course, the most important answer we still have yet to receive. Did Jeff Keighly have a one-night stand with Miss Piggy? Did Jeff cuck Kermit? Alright, so unlike last year, I'm not gonna go over everything for 2 main reasons. 1, this show was 4 fucking hours, and 2, most trailers elicit a shrug or maybe a side smirk at best. No, instead, I'd like to look at the Game Awards from a broader point of view, if you will. Study it like an entomologist would a butterfly, mainly by dissecting it, then pinning the little bastard to a wall. Maybe by doing that, we can finally figure out why the show seems to get more tedious with each passing year. Still, if you want a quick overview of the announcements I actually cared about, then here they are in brief. The new Tomb Raider games have me excited because they're returning to the original Lara, which hopefully means they'll air closer to the lighter, more adventurous tone that the original trilogy had, rather than the dour torture porn that the reboot games evolved into by their final entry. A new Mega Man game by the name of Mega Man Dual Override. From the gameplay we saw, it seems to be building on the bones of Mega Man 11, but with a slight yet nonetheless fetching visual update. Honestly, it looks great, and if it plays as well as 11 did, then it will undoubtedly be a fun romp, but I do hope Mega Man's extended cast are playable again. We heard Proto Man's whistle at the end, so at the very least, he's evolved in some capacity, but I'd like to see Bass and Treble again. Fuck it, go the powered up route and make playable characters of Roll and whatever the new batch of Robot Masters are gonna be. Probably asking for a bit too much with that last one, but hey, it happened in the series once, so I'll be damned if I don't cross my fingers and hope it happens at least one more time. Bradley Badger, a 3D platformer from David Soliani, the lead behind the Mario plus Rabbids duology, apparently having weighed his options between spinning up his own studio or disappearing into the Assassin's Creed mines for all eternity, David made the smart decision and co-founded a new studio for some ex-Rockstar lad. Now we see the fruits of their labor with what is essentially a prolonged parody of the current AAA industry. You play as a platforming mascot who finds himself in a familiar, but legally distinct, dark gothic Souls-like game that's woefully unfinished, whereupon you find a tester's controller and use it to clone objects and alter the level geometry to solve platforming puzzles. I have to admit, an ex-UB employee and several ex-Rockstar employees creating what is essentially a mockery of the AAA industry gives me the same vibe as when Jeffrey Katzenberg was fired from Disney and went on to found DreamWorks. If done properly, this game has the chance to be an excellent critique of AAA bullshit from the perspective of someone who was stuck smack dab in the middle of it. But I do hope the gameplay is satisfying even when divorced from that context. Not to mention, I hope that the jokes at the expense of the AAA game industry aren't the only string to the writer's bow, if you catch my drift. Comedy should ideally stay varied and fresh throughout the experience, so overly relying on 1 or 2 jokes might end up more irritating than entertaining by a game's end. And finally, Coven of the Chickenfoot, a story-based 3D platformer from Bruce Straley, best known as the director of The Last of Us and Uncharted 4. Not much to say other than that this game looks utterly gorgeous, and the monster the main character is palling around with is adorable. I already desire plushies of him, give him to me! Plus, it feels like 3D platformers that don't specifically fall into the subgenre of mascot platformer are somewhat rare nowadays, so even just the basic premise, said premise being that you play as an elderly witch exploring already looted dungeons, is already enough to make this game stand out at a glance. No release window though, so hopefully this game won't be sitting on my wish list with a TBA release date for a fucking century. Well, that's about it for the game trailers that actually stood out to me. Everything else had listed at best mild excitement and at worst complete apathy. Leon being playable in RE9 is cool, but that had already been leaked for months, so not exactly a surprise. And the Street Fighter movie looks genuinely fun, but some of the costumes do look a little wonky. Vega's mask feels just slightly too big for his face, but now I'm starting to nitpick, so let's move on. Everything else melds into the giant blur that I simply call the Keighly event trailer. A hazy fog of multiplayer shooters, Souls-like action games, teasers for games that are years away and could easily be cancelled by the time we see any real gameplay, and updates to anime mobile games that feel virtually indistinguishable from any of their genre contemporaries from trailer alone, occasionally broken up by something just interesting enough to stand out without actually being substantive enough that I can commit it to memory, like a new character for a fighting game I've yet to play because me playing competitive fighting games may as well be me signing up to become a digital speed bag. No, it's not the reveals that really made me want to talk about this year's award show. It's the fact it was paced like the Antique Roadshow if it were directed by a sloth under the influence of melatonin. Seriously, even when accounting for the usual Keighly cavalcade of advertisements, pointless celebrity guests, and genuinely baffling distractions, this year's show just felt lifeless for the most part, with the actual awards being rushed through even faster than in previous years. Not to mention Jeff seeming oddly condescending about certain nominees when he's not treating giving out the actual awards like a band-aid he needs to rip off so he can get more of that sweet ad revenue.
And the Game Award goes to Hollow Knight Silksong. See, you guys won. All right, here are the nominees for Best Art Direction.
In fact, more of the show seemed to be reserved for airing uncut advertisements than ever, including Evanescence just getting up and playing their newest song to mark its release on Spotify. Like, for real, why does Jeff keep bringing on music celebs to just play an entire goddamn song on stage? He did this with Snoop last year, and it just brings the show to a screeching halt. Sure, it might be fun if you're a fan of the act, but it always comes off as this desperate appeal to the wider entertainment industry in the hopes they'll actually give two flicks of shit about video games. That certainly seems to be working out wonderfully. Probably one of my biggest issues is who actually won this year. While yes, Expedition 33 is an excellent title, with some caveats we'll get into later, having it win over and over, racking up 9 of the 29 available awards, just made things utterly predictable this night, especially when the same developers kept coming up on stage to repeatedly accept awards. Now, don't misconstrue me here. It's actually heartening that a game like Expedition 33 can basically come out of nowhere, take the industry by storm, showing that there is a market for tightly designed, artistically vibrant games that don't cost $70 to $80 and load themselves down with various money-making schemes to enrich some hollow ghoul of a CEO. But having said game utterly dominate the awards felt like narrowing the spotlight to a frankly unhelpful degree, because a more varied pool of winners means more devs get to come out on stage, share their stories, and demonstrate how diverse and dynamic this industry can be, whereas giving more than 30% of the available awards to one developer only serves to downplay that diversity and make it feel like only 1 or 2 games truly mattered this year, when that couldn't be further from the truth. Plus, it means if you're a developer who flew out in the hopes of taking the stage to talk about your game, well then, I guess you're shit out of luck, matey. I'm starting to see why Team Cherry stayed home, even if Jeff didn't seem to take that very well.
You guys won, all right.
Hell, bringing up Team Cherry reminds me, the fact Silksong finally came out after 6 years of hype and was hardly a blip on the radar at this show seems like one of the most baffling elements to me, because not only does it feel unfair, but completely hypocritical the more I think about it. Not only did Team Cherry manage to create an exemplar of the Metroidvania genre, they did so as a three-person team of independent developers working solely off the profit from Hollow Knight and their remaining Kickstarter money. It's right up there with Expedition 33 as a pure labor of artistic passion, a project that feels fueled by the developer's sheer love of making and playing video games, rather than any monetary incentive, at least to me anyways. It's a perfect example of why the voting body's focus on Expedition 33 feels a bit like tunnel vision. The exact reason Expedition 33 is being so heavily praised is easily applicable to Silksong, and Hades 2 for that matter, and yet whoever's in charge of choosing the nominees seems to have completely overlooked both of them for the most part. Hell, even just the fact Silksong is one of the rare examples of a game not only living up to the immense amount of hype, but actually exceeding people's grossly tumescent expectations. That alone deserves all the praise in the world if you ask me. The sheer skill and polish it takes to actually stick the landing when it's all too easy to miss completely and plunge straight into the lightless depths that Duke Nukem Forever and The Last Guardian will occupy forevermore is something to be celebrated in and of itself, but I suppose the voting body disagreed. Look, I can't say it was all bad or anything. The Muppets were fun as always. That little duet between Miss Piggy and Rolf towards the end of the show put a smile on my face even after such an otherwise dull show. And at least that song was actually themed around video games in that year's nominees, so it didn't feel completely out of place like Evanescence's number. But not only has every problem I've had with previous year's shows reared their heads again, but a few brand new ones have been introduced. I can't think of a year where a game so completely stole the limelight as Expedition 33 did this year. Maybe Baldur's Gate free in 2020 free, but even that game didn't drag home 9 awards. At this point, Keighly really should just sit down and think about the type of show he wants to put on. If he simply wants an orgy of avarice and advertisement, then junk the awards altogether and rename this a Winter's Game Fest or something.
I have all the money. Compare your lives to mine and then kill yourselves.
But if he actually wants to put on a proper award show, then here are my suggestions. 1. Set a nomination limit. This is fairly simple. Limit a game to 2 or 3 nominations. That way, even if it's popular, it won't completely take over the show and have the same devs coming on stage to accept an award 9 fucking times. It would make things more interesting at the folks at home wondering who's going to win, but more importantly, it shares the stage with more developers and better highlights the wide range of talented folks in the industry. Oh, and as a side note, or 1.5 I guess, absolutely be willing to revoke awards as needed. The fact Expedition 33 not only swept the Game Awards, but did so while using generative AI makes the awards look even less reputable. It might be a symbolic gesture, but it shows that they give a modicum of fried shit for actual developers. Old Dorito Pope Keighly has always been a commercial sellout, but at least he knew when to take a token stand in the past. See him barring Activision from the 2021 Game Awards, for example. 2. Try to keep a pulse on conversations. One of the most out-of-touch moments of the night came when Mario Kart World received Best Sports/Racing, earning a chorus of honestly well-deserved boos from people in the audience. Now, I don't know if this was to stay on Nintendo's good side, or simply the voting body looking down the list of nominees and automatically assuming Mario Kart would be the most popular, but if it's the latter, then they massively miscalculated. Mario Kart's goodwill has been steadily draining ever since the announcement of the $80 price point, and it never really earned that goodwill back. So giving it the Best Racing award feels at best out of touch, and worse, utterly rigged.
Oh my god, bro.
Oh, hell no, man. What?
If the Game Awards really are going to position themselves as the premier video game award show, then I feel their voting body should at least be somewhat in touch with the feelings of the wider gaming community. Obviously, they don't need to poll every random Johnny on Twitter, but if a game like Mario Kart World is only getting more and more backlash as the months go on, whereas its direct contemporaries and Kirby Air Riders, which bizarrely didn't get nominated even, and Sonic Racing Cross Worlds are generating more positive word of mouth and seem to be actually keeping their player base happy for the most part, then why give the award to the kart racer people seem to be enjoying the least at the moment? Is it because Mario Kart sold the best? Because if that's the case, then it's ignoring crucial context around the game. Of course Mario Kart sold the best. It was bundled with the Switch 2 for $50, and it was a launch title for the new hot ticket console. People are buying it for lack of anything else to fucking play on the thing. It doesn't mean they love Mario Kart in particular. If you're starving to death in the desert and your only food left is a case of hardtack, it wouldn't be fair to me to assume that hardtack is your favorite food, now would it? Look, I don't mean to harp on the Mario Kart example in particular, but to me it's a perfect example of how disconnected the Game Awards can be from both the gaming press and the general audience. Obviously the voting party are allowed to have their own opinions, but again, if this show is going to be gaming's premier award show, then the award winners should be genuine reflections of the year's best, not just the most visible or profitable. Speaking of the awards, my final point. Number 3, actually give more time to the fucking awards. I feel like I say this every year, so I won't belabor the point. Don't just rapid fire categories like Best Indie, or burn off categories like Best Content Creator in the pre-show. If you feel these awards are good enough to be part of the show in the first place, then actually fucking treat them as such. As it is, I often get the impression that these awards are considered ancillary by the way they're treated, so much so that I wonder why they're even here in the first place. Honestly, just a little pomp and circumstance is all I need. Something more than just saying the winner then immediately moving on. I know that might cut into your precious ad time, and heaven forbid Keighly not make enough commercial money to buy a 5th yacht, but do remember that this is supposed to be a fucking award show above all else. Hell, the fact Moist Critical won Content Creator of the Year, and Keighly didn't even invite him out to the show, or bring him up on a video call if he couldn't come down to LA, speaks volumes as to how much he actually seems to care about that particular award. Just a few little touches would go a long way in showing you actually give a damn about what you're presenting here. At the end of the day, I know a lot of people are going to tell me that this isn't that deep. Don't take it too seriously and just enjoy the ride. I understand that mindset, especially when there's so many terrible things going on, not just in the game industry, but in the world as a whole. Still, just because something isn't the most serious issue at the moment doesn't mean it can't receive some well-deserved criticism, and as someone who cares about gaming as a medium and an art form, I think an award show that ostensibly claims to know what games are the best that any given year has to offer, a show that literally has an award called Games for Impact, a show that puts itself on this pedestal of being the Oscars of gaming, should be subject to the same amount of scrutiny as the Oscars, an event that, for all its many faults, at least pretends to have a crumb of class and is run by people who actually want to celebrate the art of cinema, even if it's through its own myopic view of what it constitutes as cinema, but I digress. The Game Awards should focus on the games being awarded and, more importantly, developers, actors, and writers behind those games, the entire teams of artists who brought those games to life for us to play. I mean, for fuck's sake, Jeff, you're not on Spike TV anymore. You're not sandwiching your show between episodes of Mansers, so pick up some dignity, why don't ya? Okay, look, I guess what I'm saying is, like, what I'm really trying to say is that Keighly fucked up by not having Donkey Kong Bonanza win every single category, because it's Kong of the Year, baby! Hey, thanks everyone who stuck around and listened to me bitch about an award show. As always, be sure to like if you enjoyed the video, and let me know what you thought about the awards in the comments below. And always remember to crank up the noise. See you next time.